It's not necessarily that what Kamala Harris is saying is wrong. The economy sucks, inflation sucks, the border sucks, we're lacking opportunities, and it's harder than ever for the American people to succeed and achieve the American dream. Welcome aboard. This is the Springboard. We'll talk about money. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about what's going on in the world. I'm an opinionated guy. You can like me, hate me, love me, or absolutely abhor me. I'm sharing my opinions where they are welcome, and especially where they are not. America is in bad shape, and we need someone in the White House who can recognize the problems, offer the right solutions, and turn it all back around. I'm so glad, Mrs. Harris, that you have finally awakened to the reality that we've got some serious problems here. Welcome to the club. So, where exactly have you been all these past 4 years? Oh, wait. Weren't you, in the White House? That is, of course, exactly where Kamala Harris has been. And while she's been there, not only has she been party to all of the bad policies and decisions that got us here, she also defended them, right alongside President Joe Biden. Both her and Joe were telling us that what our eyes and our wallets knew damn well was a lie, was wrong. Everything's running superbly, her and Joe said over and over again. This is Bidenomics at work, folks. Isn't it wonderful? As she struts across the country, holding rallies, doing the occasional interviews, and even what she said on the debate stage, she's saying the right words. What she is saying is true, only she's not telling us who caused all of these problems we now have to fix. At the core of her campaign, it's as though Joe Biden never happened. It's as though we are expected to simply wipe Joe completely out of our memories. Joe Biden? Who? The way you hear Kamala Harris talk about things. Trump's been the guy in the White House all along these past 4 years. Harris is simply the newcomer on the block, and the White House is a place she has never been to. And it's Trump's fault, not her and Biden's, that all of what went wrong in America happened. The remarkable thing is that if you talk to Democrats, and especially Harris supporters, they are buying into it. They believe it. And frankly, the media is right on board with this narrative as well. Joe Biden and the entire Biden and Harris administration has been completely wiped off the map. It never existed. Do we even feel like Joe Biden is the president anymore? What this election should be is Harris against Biden. Or, at least Harris against Harris. But we're being sold on the idea that it is really a race against Trump, who, of course, was not the president these past 4 years. When Trump was president, the economy was booming. We didn't have wars raging across the globe. Inflation was almost non-existent. Despite the troubles that came from the pandemic, by the time Joe Biden entered the White House, the pandemic was weakening, and at the very least, businesses were opened back up and people could return to jobs they were forced to abandon. Inflation numbers were a paltry 1.4%. What Biden and Harris inherited, essentially, was a country that was well poised to enjoy a comfortable recovery, if things were handled properly, of course. Instead, Joe Biden set off on a course of trying to erase any accomplishments Trump had made during his presidency. From energy policy to border policy, Joe Biden signed executive order after executive order, canceling all of it out. These are the things, the very policies, that set nearly all of the wheels in motion to put us where we are now. We're not going back, is the big campaign slogan. But back to what? None of the issues that are problems today were problems until Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put their hands on the Bible and swore an oath to protect the Constitution and look out for the best interests of the American people. Whatever anyone wants to say about the 4 years that Trump was in office, it is hard to say that it was not better, and should be very hard to understand how the problems we are facing now weren't the result of the last 4 years, not the 4 years that came before it. How can we, as intelligent people, be convinced to accept that Trump is responsible for what Biden and Harris were in command of, to make right that went so wrong? It's almost as though Harris has turned herself into a great magician. She's pulled the rabbit out of the hat, and everyone is convinced the rabbit wasn't there all along. It's the greatest magic trick of all time. We can simply forget who was actually in office these past 4 years. And rather than run against ourselves, we can simply run against the guy we blame for everything that's gone wrong, and magically convince the American people we weren't the ones in charge when it all went to hell. By the way, if you are enjoying this commentary, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate your support, and it really helps to reach more people who may also enjoy this content. Really, this channel is an extension of my blogs, which I write on several platforms. And if you want to find more content from me, I'll leave a link in the description below to my Facebook Springboard page, where I post links to my latest blogs and articles. Back to the video. Amazingly, what was a much less close race when Joe Biden was on the ticket has now become considerably closer. And that scares me a bit. Not because Trump may lose the election, but because of what that means for the American people and the state of the country going forward. If we want to solve all of these issues, why would we want to put someone in charge of fixing things that broke them in the first place? And how did we ever get to a place where voters might dismiss it wasn't Trump that got us here? My hope is that the polls, many of which show Harris having a slight lead over Trump, especially in critical swing states, are wrong, or just machinations of media spin. What's clouding some judgments, I think, is the level of hate toward Donald Trump. When you hate someone, judgments about policies that worked and got results simply don't matter. Adding to the problem, besides just wall-to-wall media press coverage about Trump that many people believe is true, I'm only being honest when I admit that Trump is not a great orator. And so while his message is clearly there, it oftentimes gets trapped in the mud. At a time like this, having a few poignant Reagan-like comebacks would be the icing on the cake that we need to set the record straight and force Harris to explain herself, especially about her complete 180-degree turn regarding policy positions that the media simply ignores. Trump needs to be very clear about what the problems are, who caused them, and not only that his opponent and Joe Biden were responsible for what happened, but explain exactly what policy decisions were responsible. No one in the media is going to ask the right questions or report on the facts. So, it's up to him. Hopefully by now voters have at least become accustomed to Trump's style, that he means more than what he says and will do more than what he doesn't say. The hope is that people can honestly look back to his presidency and not fall for the ruse. Harris isn't the solution. She's the problem. When you look back on a very similar time in our history, when Ronald Reagan was running against then-President Jimmy Carter, this should mark a landslide victory for Trump. Yet polls suggest otherwise. It's either true that voters have completely erased Joe Biden's past 4 years from their memories, or we're being played by the media, or the hate for Donald Trump is so deep that people are willing to put Harris into office, regardless of the consequences. I think it's fair to say that we probably know what the results should be. Deep down in our hearts, we know who should win this election and why. But we'll also have to wait and see what happens in November, what wins, truth or fiction. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you back again. If you have thoughts or ideas about what I have shared here, leave me a comment, and I'd be interested to hear your feedback on the video format as well. By trade, I'm a writer, and this channel is just a way to share with a potentially wider audience what I do. As you may have noticed poking around this channel a bit, I'm still finding my way around here. It's a bit of a mixed bag. At the same time, what's more important to me than the visual aspects of what you see here? It's the message. I hope you at least walk away from this video with that. Onward and upward. And I'll see you on the other side. Until next time, this is Jim Bauer and the Springboard signing off.